Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston with our Blooming Catholic Life. And I had today a surprise for you. It's something that I've talked about a long time ago and never showed you. And when I sat down to think about what to make a video about today, it was right up here. So when I reorganized and set this up, I could see it. Now, do you remember when we all learned how to make granny squares? And I kept saying how completely versatile they are. So let me show you one of the really awesome ones. John's grandmother, my husband's grandmother, made this for us. It is a full queen size blanket. I'm pretty sure. We don't use it anymore because we have the dog and we don't want to ruin it. So what am I looking for? So you have your plane, right? You see your granny square in there. There's how many rounds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just 5 times around, right? And you can see they're sewn together. But look can you see this? Some of them are half. So halfway through you do you do half of them white and half of them blue. And then go on to the next round. Interesting, right? Now some people work them flat. Just work the white side and then just work the blue side and sew them together. It looks like she actually changed the color as she went around. And the third kind of square in here is this floral square. Now, some people do it where they just alternate colors every round, but you can see she started out with a single crochet and then did a cluster. And then she did the standard. Ooh, there's a little rip there coming in. Ooh. Good thing I caught that. Then she did the regular, I believe, 3 double crochets. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but that's not looking... Oh, it's a couple places. That happens. Acrylic yarn gets thin as time wears on. So no, that last one is actually a cluster. So seeing the damage, can you see how thin those threads are? Not recommending the clusters there. I would do the 3 double crochets because that little thread for the cluster is getting a little thin. Now, why did she do these different patterns? Let me see if I can start holding it up for you. Can I get far enough back? Can you see? It's to make a quilt pattern. She crocheted a quilt pattern. She couldn't quilt, but she could crochet. So it's the star pattern, and in between, she has the rose block. Now, you could just do those plain blue. You wouldn't have to do those as a flower. Let me see if I can get the big central star, and I'll kind of lean back maybe a little bit more so you can see it. You can see that, right? Oh, so there's a couple of those on there. I'll try and get a picture of that. But that just shows you how completely versatile a granny square is. Do I have more for you today? I don't know. What other kinds of crafts do we have around here? Oh, I did have something I wanted to show you. I'll do that on one of the evening ones. Let me see. Right, Rusty? Today's one of those summer blah days, so I'm kind of wondering what you all are up to. Yeah, I've got the summer blahs. That's it. I'm just still enjoying I love organizing. I'm not good at keeping up with it, but I love organizing. So again, if you're not watching Lectio Divina, I've been really working on organizing the books and getting them out of the rest of the house. I do love doing that. It does wear me out over time. And then I think that takes up all my creative juices and I'm just like, meh, what do I do now? So the Granny Square projects I've been working on, I made those washcloths for the babies. I still have one more pregnant niece. God bless them. They're all getting married. So many of the nieces and nephews are getting married and having babies. So they're keeping me busy with little projects. And I get behind, I get arthritis and I can only work when I can work. So I'm still looking for some other ideas. Granny squares are a great idea because here's one of the secrets. So Grandma had a very specific vision in mind when she started that blanket, right? But you don't have to. Whether you're doing that knitted magic square or you're doing the simple basic crochet square, the granny square that we've talked about. We've talked about those both on here. Here's a little secret. You can just make squares. You're probably thinking, like, what is she talking about? You don't have to have a project in mind yet. You can just make the squares, sew in the ends, and then, so maybe you've got like 50 pink squares, 50 white squares, 50 blue squares, and see, then somebody says, oh, I'm having a girl, you can quickly do the white and the pink. But if they say, oh, I'm having a boy, you could do the white and the blue. You could, I don't know, you could do a variety of colors. Maybe somebody prefers bright colors and you have some already done. You could just have a variety. You could go between different skeins that make you happy at different times. Sometimes we all fall into this trap. Like, we want to knit or crochet with our favorite color, even though we have enough things in it. So my favorite color is pink and it makes me happy, but they aren't always having little girl babies that I need things for. But you can just go ahead and make up those squares. Remember, they may also make great dishcloths or washcloths if it comes to that. If you've made them in cotton, they can go for that. If you want to make them out of acrylic or some kind of blend for a baby or somebody older, you have all these squares like ready to go. Then all you have to do is make them into strips and sew them together, and then you're done. You're like so close to being done. So you're not going to have a bunch of finished projects, and you don't even have to know what you're making. Maybe you end up making a sweater. Maybe you end up making a shawl. Maybe it's a blanket. Maybe it's a backpack. One year the guys got on me because every year for Easter I was making the girls these pretty little shawls, and at some point the guys went, hey, what about us? You can still make them backpacks and all kinds of fun guy things out of granny squares. I did make them out of camo, so they were out of that multicolored greens and browns, but then some of them were solid green and some were solid brown, and some ladies love tans and greens as well. So you don't have to commit to what the project is, but you're giving yourself like this huge jump start by having the squares already made. And summer is really hot. You don't want to be walking around with a huge heavy blanket on your lap that you're working on all the time, right? And so that's why this is like the best thing ever. Now, you can do small squares, you can do bigger ones. You could do like the 5-inch square, but you could make them really big ones. You could make them into like a 12-inch square. I mean, goodness, you could just do like 5 12-inch squares together and you'd have a shawl already done, or something. So you could make them really big or make them really small. Would be really neat if you make the small ones so that they fit 4 of them right into one of your big ones. So then that gives you even more possibilities as to what you could make with it. It's just a genius idea because you're not carrying a lot around with you at any given time. You can switch colors whenever you want. You can make the multicolored ones, sure, if you have a lot of room that day to take 4 or 5 skeins of yarn. But if you don't, just grab one and make some solid colored ones. And you get bored with that solid color you're working on, just grab another one and use up your stash. And then you're like ready to go. The only trick you have in the end is what color are you going to put them together with? So you want to leave some of those or stash a skein that kind of coordinates with a bunch of the colors together. Some people really like having black because it makes like a stained glass look on the finished project. And so you could just grab any black at any time. That's not such a big deal. But if you want to make sure it matches, you may want to stash a skein of a nice coordinating yarn that you might like to use to sew them together. Just put it in the bin that you have all these squares in. Just store them in bins until the winter and you're ready to put blankets together. It's like a super easy, fun summer idea. Just saying. That is my super fun, super easy summer idea. Whether you're going to knit these, you can, just like we knit the washcloths out of cotton, you can just use acrylic and do the same thing. And so you could have knit squares. One of my grandmothers did do that. She knit us squares. God bless her, because that's a lot of work. It wasn't stockinette. It really was garter stitch, just like the diagonal dishcloth. Instead, this was done just back and forth. And she did yellow and green blocks and then sewed it all together in the end. You can do that too. You can do something that everybody says they're going to do and then that never works out is one of those exchange samplers. So you could pick a color, but you don't have to. Or pick several colors, give people options. I've seen people do it, just use this type of yarn. So pick a yarn that's ready available and say, make your square. It needs to be this size in the end. And then say you're having a family reunion or you're going on vacation together or there's a wedding coming up. You could all bring squares and then put them together, or you could exchange squares. So you could all go in together for like a bridal shower, bring them and then put them together to surprise the bride and groom with something that was made by so many people in their family. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do something for on their bed that big, but a nice blanket for the couch or something is a nice idea. Again, it's a great idea for babies because a lot of times you just want something that you're okay with putting down on the ground or laying baby on a nap on. Like if you want to throw it on somebody's couch, they don't necessarily need it to snuggle in, so it doesn't need to be hot. You know, people in Florida probably don't want a hot blanket, but again, they may want to have a blanket to be able to lay down to lay the baby onto. So still a great idea. So say you're having family reunion, whatever, you're going to see a lot of family members or friends over the summer. You can bring them, and instead of putting them all together, exchange them. So everybody brings so many and everybody takes so many back home. And then you've already got the variation without doing it. Like say it's really hard for you to work in navy blue, but you really like it. Maybe somebody else has younger eyes that can see the navy blue better, and maybe they'll bring you the navy blue squares that you need. It'd be great. Oh my goodness, in the summer, wouldn't it be fun to do your patriotic blankets then? You could divvy up who has red, who has white, and who has blue. Easy peasy. Maybe have a couple people who are only going to do a few, do some in gold. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? So the ideas are endless. Get your exchanges going. And these can also be super great for charity projects. Now, some people really like the total hodgepodgeness of when you exchange this. I do like kind of having some kind of a theme to go with it or color palette, but some people like the random ones. You can make them in people's school colors if you know where you're going to be donating something to, or at the last minute, you can make them into a prayer shawl. Again, you can get as fancy and complicated as you want with a granny square as you want. Even if you're doing one of the little roses, but then somebody says the pattern you have calls for like, you're going to end up with a 5-inch square. And then somebody says, oh, but we need 6-inch squares. Just add an extra round of double crochets. No big deal. Now you're at the size that you need. That's just the beauty of it. If you can end up with the same number of stitches on the outside all around, everyone, even better, because then it's super easy, super duper easy to sew together. But it's a fun summer project. Get you ready for winter. I don't know where you are in the world. It might already be winter. But it's a fun exchange. Even in the winter, it is a fun exchange. You can even send them to each other in the mail. So, friends, let's just end there and send me your ideas. I don't know. Can you put photos in the comments in YouTube? That'd be really fun. If not, find us over on Facebook. You should be able to post photos there. Or if not, you can send them to me. I'm on Twitter as well. I'm not difficult to find. I'm Deanna Williston, OFS. On Facebook, it's Our Blooming Catholic Life with Deanna Williston and Friends. Something like that. Oh, and if you're wondering, why isn't she on Instagram? I am, but I almost exclusively post nature photos there. So if you like nature photos, join me on Instagram for that. Okay, friends, may God bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and to be gracious unto you. And may the good Lord bless you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.